The Senssphere channel, and now some chilled discussion after the week's angst with the Doctor Who Detox Hour or two.
Hello everybody, still morning in Britain. A feast of Doctor Who fun this Friday with the Doctor Who Detox. It's recommended therapy, and medication to soothe your Whovian angst, anxieties and awkward little sores. Missus. All the good doctor prescribes is that you sit back, take in the vibes and vapours for the couple of cheeky hours, and you should be right for the weekend. There you go. So, you've been told. We have a right blend of nostalgia and chat today with a real comparison to ponder here. Ncuti's second season versus David Tennant's first. Technically, season 2 of New Who versus season 2. RTD 1 season 2 versus RTD 2 season 2. But we'll have a nice nostalgic look at that the first season of David Tennant proper. How far has RTD sank or failed to make progress since then? The tagline for this new season 2 is "Get Her Home." It feels so flat and weak, but it gives us a chance, an excuse to take a look at another "Get Her Home" moment. Yes, when Sarah Jane Smith left in Hand of Fear. So it's a nice little excuse, that one. So we'll have a focus on that too. And since Dwayne from Sirens of Audio has been busy entertaining Matthew Waterhouse in Adelaide today, we have the Adric files. And he's hoping to join us a little bit later tonight. That and anything else that comes up, it's like a cosmic catar, this. So, we debated how far Doctor Who should be considered a hit show on Wednesday, since Good Morning America claimed it was a hit show. And our feisty Bigenerates had a good chat. So if you haven't seen that yet, tune in on that one. And of course, last Sunday, the Armageddon Factor. Sunday was a stellar lineup of panelists and topics. So it's still out there. If you haven't watched it yet, you'll have fun. And who is that RTD impressionist? And Terrence Dicks, wasn't he good? So please repost us, advertise us, pass the word on to a friend. These are competitive and tricky times, cost of living, and it all does cost, yes. So any help, any free help will be appreciated. That's all I ask. Thank you. Now, we had a new panelist on Wednesday, Sonny, who he'd emailed me on the Gmail and literally talked to him before you knew it was on, and a lot of you liked him. He'll be back. So that's all you have to do. DM me on Twitter, or obviously send us an email on Gmail. So, should we start the tonic? Should we start going? Let's see who we can get on first. So, of course, one of the original detoxers, although he keeps coming back for more, so obviously he needs the therapy. Here he is. Here's Dan.
G'day, Brendan. Hello, gang. How are we this week?
Well, I think we still need another dose. I mean...
Yes. Well, your intro, it felt like it was getting very toxic, so...
Did you?
Yeah. I can just sense the tension around this next season coming.
Yes, well, this is it. People are worried about, we'll mention some of the rumours maybe a bit later, but, it's our morning. It's your time for bed almost, isn't it? So, of course, sometimes a little nibble. There's another Dalek. I like these Daleks, but actually, I don't think that looks much like a Dalek to me. I think I'd give it a miss.
Looks like too many carbs.
Yeah, but it just doesn't look appealing. I imagine I might eat the eye stalk. I don't know. It's like a jelly baby. I always have the head first.
It looks like one of the ones from the Planet of the Daleks at the end, in the ice tombs.
Mind you, if you had somebody who was really greedy, you might have the invisible Dalek from Planet of the Daleks, where, oh, where's it gone? It's invisible. Crumbs falling from the mouth. And to complete our lineup tonight, but as I said, Dwayne might join us later from Simons of Audio because he's been a bit busy with Matthew Waterhouse. Dying to hear about that. We've got Boomer Doug. Here he is. Or we should say
Hello.
the man. We should say the man from Uncle because you've started another channel. You're like some woman. I don't know. You're like one of the old kind of gurus of the past. Mogul.
I'm a lunatic. That's what I am. I'm following your lead, and I'm overcommitting myself. It's been a busy week. I've started a new channel called what's it called? Always Say Uncle. See, I'm tired. And it's going surprisingly well. And I had quite a busy day today. I caught up with our friend Dwayne. Briefly met Matthew Waterhouse. I've only just got back home, so if I'm very quiet today, it means I'm having a nap in between conversations.
Amazing. That's just what we want. No. Well, we all feel it sometimes and feel your age. I love this shot of Matt Smith when, obviously, before he did The Time of the Doctor, they took him from a very young man to a very old man. And sometimes I feel like that when I think I've got to do another stream. I'm thinking, I'm not ready. But if brilliant prosthetics. God, they really aged him so well, didn't they? I have that process naturally now.
Yeah, now he can come back anytime.
Oh, I know. Can you imagine him coming back now? So that just got me thinking, they were trying to age a very young Doctor there. And then we had he was only in his 50s, William Hartnell, wasn't he? I mean...
He wasn't that old, really.
No, he wasn't. In fact, he was younger than I am now.
Yeah.
There's him getting the wig put on. And then apparently he's then an old man. Gosh, isn't time weird? I don't see myself as old, but, suppose other panelists might say this different.
No, you're young compared to me. It's good.
And of course, because we're all Doctor Who fans and it's been going on for 60 odd years, yes, I know it's from the power of the Doctor, but when you get companions from the past all coming back, it kind of pulls at your heartstrings a bit, doesn't it? Because it's playing on that nostalgic thing, because you'll have seen Joe Grant maybe before, or Tegan in the 80s, or Bonnie, or Ian. It's hard, isn't it? I found that a problem. I loved it, but I found it a problem at the same time.
It's a nice tie-up, yeah. It felt like there might have been some more to that got chopped out. It was very fleeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had the feeling there was more. I wish there was, actually, because I enjoyed that part.
I almost wanted that just to be the episode.
Yeah, after the episode was done, I was thinking, what should have happened? That should have been the pre-title scene. And then cut to the adventure, because
Well, when some of those American sitcoms like The Golden Girls and all those, and when they've done a full season, at the end you tune in and they have a clips episode, don't they?
The old clip show.
Flashback.
Yeah, and they used to kind of always sit there and say, hey, remember when? And they were the only new bits, and then they linked all the clips. And in a way, you could have had our Doctor Who companions all sat in that circle, and instead of just hearing Joe Grant's laugh for a second, we could have had her going, well, I've still got the crystal, or I don't, something. And then we have a flashback, and a bit like the Tales of the TARDIS, really, but I'd have loved it. I'm not everyone there did I want to see back, but there you go. But you see, this is the beauty of it. I mean, we'll probably be mentioning School Reunion later because we talk about season 2 and with David Tennant. But it was fantastic to even get William Russell back. I mean, come on, these moments are lost once they're gone. I so wish that they had used him more while he was around, because he was quite sprightly and he would have been fantastic. Yeah, and that's why I really want Carol Ann Ford to be brought back, even though it's a risk. Do you know what I mean? It's big risk, yeah. It is a big risk, but once they're not here, that it's lost forever, isn't it? That chance. Hello, Sam and Anthony. We will get you back on, don't you, Rory? I know you've been recovering from various things. You said. I think I can get an interview with one of the makeup artists for William Hartnell. Wait. Oh well, he's on. didn't see that. So we have to suffer many different prosthetics in Doctor Who, and of course sometimes some dodgy disguises. That's the master from the Daemons, I think, isn't it?
Thought it was Doug.
The hair's too dark.
But thinking of the master, does anybody in the panel and in the thread, does anyone still get the Doctor Who magazine?
No.
I think I've got that exact magazine behind me somewhere.
Oh, it's a good one. As in, it takes me back to a time when I was in first or second year senior school, and it was just an exciting time. I mean, a new Doctor and all the rest of it. Dan's desperately trying to find it now, but Doug, do you partake? Doug?
Oh, sorry. Partake in what? I told you I'm tired. No,
Yeah.
I honestly, I've had a few issues just to read online, but I haven't owned an actual hardback version for many, many, many years. There's just not much to really intrigue me, really. I think the last one I bought was they had a cutout of the TARDIS that you could put together, which I had a go at, and that was it, really. Yeah.
Well, so Darko, good to see you. I would only get the rare issue if it has an important legacy interview in it. Yeah, I mean, for example...
Same, same.
Yeah, I'll show everybody in a minute one more recent one. David Harding. I haven't read Doctor Who Monthly in more than a decade. It got really expensive over here. Yeah, I remember being in Australia, and when you get the export across, whoa, the cost on it.
They're usually about 2 months old, too. They're usually, unless you could get an express one and pay even more... the ones you get are about a month, 2 months old. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, you see, I'm getting triggered in every way. Toonami up in my part of the world. He's asking me, a Middlesbrough fan, am I going to the Newcastle parade tomorrow? They won a cup. They won a little cup. You know, I mean, it was a much bigger Toonami when we won it. Anyway, I suppose I have to kind of be loyal to the Northeast. Well done. Mark Jones, I found that in Classic Who and early New Who, when an old companion is mentioned, turns up, I would have a smile like seeing an old friend, but now I feel they are being used to justify the new show. That's a very good way of putting it, actually. Yeah, for that one moment of a smile, you then go, I wish you hadn't done that. We might discuss how Sarah was treated in School Reunion a little bit later. And, of course, on treatment of people, Pip and Jane Baker, why have I randomly thrown them up? Have you heard some of the rumours about season 2 by any chance?
No.
What? No.
What sort of rumours?
One rumour is that the bi-generation wasn't just introduced for our Doctor, that now it's been introduced to Doctor Who lore, that he's going to do it again, but it's going to be Mrs. Flood bi-generate with the Rani.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
I didn't think they could really... Pip and Jane Baker are sadly no longer with us. They didn't have children, and I know that their estate is a little bit complex, but I don't know if who owns the rights to the Rani still. It's one of those, you know?
I wouldn't... It doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like something you'd want to have happen. But at the moment, the crazier the rumor, you'd believe it, though, wouldn't you?
Oh, well, of course,
Exactly.
Omega's coming back again. I mean, that rumour does the circuit every year, doesn't it? Omega. I mean, if you're bored and you're a showrunner and you've got 2 brain cells left, I'll have Omega back. I have to say, you did the Rice Krispies Omega, with Arc of Infinity. I don't want him back. I'm sorry. He's been, like Gallifrey, like the Time Lords, he's been ruined. No. Yeah, mention him, but please don't bring him back and put Rice Krispies on his face. No. And of course, prosthetic-wise, all these banned creatures we can't have anymore. Magnus Green wouldn't be allowed to return, would he? The Butcher of Brisbane.
It's appropriation.
Well, yes. And of course, we might be talking about the Absorbalov tonight from season 2.
Wow.
Yes. Where does everybody start with that?
I had high hopes because I'm a big fan of Peter Kay, and apparently
Yeah.
he's a big Doctor Who fan. And I think, if I remember rightly, it was a competition, and they adapted a design of the competition winner. But yeah, I can't watch it anymore.
No, but people are joining us all the time. It's an early hour in some parts of the world, but next week, with time frames changing and time zones, it'll be a very different time. Because I think Australia, your clocks move, our clocks move, so suddenly 11 a.m. turns into 1 p.m. So I'm bring that on. Jeremy Musical, only 12 minutes late, Brendan. That's not too shabby by my standard. I always had sympathy for Pip and Jane Baker. They did their best and were very kind people. I totally agree with that. And I don't like the treatment of people. Nobody deserves bad treatment. And as everybody who watches this channel knows, I may criticize RTD's scripts, or I may criticize various other choices.
Hey, they wrote solid episodes, and their stories had a beginning, middle, and the end. Unlike some other Doctor Who writers that will remain nameless, because I'm not as heartless as they were.
Yeah, Terror of the Vervoids. It had the classic structure and all the rest of it. For example, Mark of the Rani, not a problem. And I won't mention the other one as much. Now, I think it's time I asked you, the lads, as I always do, about what the week's been like, because of course we have our time. What's it? Ups and downs of the time rota. Here we go. Okay, so ups and downs of the week. So for you as a Whovian, Dan, any ups or downs of your week in our Who world?
No downs, but my up for the week is, as you know, I was classed a heretic for saying that Peladon was boring, but today, on another stream, the entire panel agreed that Peladon is boring.
And do you know what I mean? And were they taken off the air? I mean, can they say such sacrilege?
Well, let's just say that I took one for the team by calling it out, and now we've got people agreeing.
Honestly, the thread. Come on, thread. You with me? Peladon. I mean, come on. We could have a trilogy. We could have another one. Come on, Peladon. Boring.
Well,
No,
they're too busy talking about something else. So don't worry about it.
Miners' rights, yeah, that's one thing that would bore me if they did it for a third time. Doug, up and down of Doctor Who week?
No real downs, but my up happened today. I got to meet Dwayne in person. He's much better looking in person, and I briefly got to meet Matthew Waterhouse. So I'm happy.
He's alive. Adric's alive.
He's alive and well, both of them.
Was he clutching a star or anything? Or
He was, but I'm not sure if it was a star he was clutching.
was he? And was he wearing pajamas?
He wore a jacket that looked pajama-like, but no. He seems like a lovely chap. I mean, I only briefly met him as they went to have their dinner that I wasn't invited to because I'm not a paying guest. But he seems like a lovely chap, and it was great to catch up with Dwayne.
Well, ups and downs of the week. What did the thread think? Of course, on our Bigenetics, we looked at the Good Morning America interview. It's 2 minutes. I mean, I don't know why they bother. These powder puff items, I never know why they bother with them half the time, because by the time they get them on, they're back off again.
Nobody remembers them.
No, and they don't really say too much, but just in case you missed it, everybody, the brief moment when they told us about how amazing season 2 would be, I'll give you a glimpse and then we'll get on with normal life. Here we go.
Brand new season of this hit series. Brand new season of this hit series. Brand new season of this hit series.
I've not had a companion that challenges the Doctor as much. The greatest trouble he's ever faced before. Whovians will love this season. It's
The best reveal.
the best reveal.
No, but it's you.
Well, Doctor?
Of course. The Master.
Yeah, I added those at the end.
Hang on. I was going to say, there's no way that they put all those clips at the end of that. 'Cause I was sitting there thinking, how the hell are they going to top those three?
Yeah, only a Doctor Who fan would do that. Yeah, exactly. I added those because they said, Rtd'S goes, there's a killer reveal, and I'm thinking, no, these are the killer reveals. Actually, they've got to beat that.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's fair. That was immediately my reaction. Was like, wow, that would be impossible to beat those three in one go.
The trouble is, when you've got non-Doctor Who fans who are in the leads, like Verada and Ncuti, and they're saying, oh, there's Easter eggs for Doctor Who fans. The whovians will love it. Who's told them the whovians will love it? In other words, with the saying this about Sutek, oh, when Sutek comes back, the whovians will be having some sort of kind of wet dream. No, they won't be saying that at all. What did we do? We cursed like hell.
Do you think if they'd made Sutek look a bit more like Sutek? I mean, I thought it was really good that they got
Gabriel
Wolf back to do it, but I kind of just feel bad now that because it did split the audience, didn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, well, Divan and Dragon still got work, and he says the panel, the Good Morning America panel, with so much negative space is boring. Get her home. Sorry, pass. Oh, he's feeling it. But Pickles is upbeat. Belinda is probably the first strong female companion. Now, I don't know if it's irony, Pickles, because obviously that's what she said, and that's what Ncuti said. But Donna, Sarah, I'm missing out some here. Martha.
What about Barbara? She was a strong.
Exactly. So the first strong female companion. They love to do this grifting, don't they?
Who said that?
They both have. Ncuti and Verada.
Full of crap.
Right.
Toonami hit series. It still has an audience for the classic series and modern Who until Jodie. Yes, on the Bigenerates, I looked at the ratings again to say hit series. Please, you're having a laugh. David Harding in Toronto. It seems that their Good Morning America interview was a shameless attempt to promote series 2 when it comes out on Disney. Yeah, because they all owned. It's all a blur. Who owns what over there, isn't it?
Well, we will enjoy. They'd be there if they weren't promoting it, though.
Yeah. But we will enjoy Get Her Home. I know that there's all the different skits of this, but the one we will look at later, of course, is the one with Sarah when we got her home. Well, he didn't quite get her home. It was a little bit wrong. And there's the original with Barbara and Ian getting them home. So I know. Oh, it's all been done before.
Imagine if we are blown away, though. That would be so cool.
If what? Sorry?
We were blown away this season. If everything they just said happened.
Hey, I'm happy. Look, in our hearts, we are wanting Doctor Who to have a good season. I know people are saying, I'd like it to rest, and I take that point too. But we don't want to see it. It's like putting your dog down. You don't want to watch it, but you have to because you're loyal. But I'd rather not see it put down, and I'd rather see it have some good, some good days and good episodes. Come on, surely. Liz Shaw, Jeremy Musical, yes, totally. Liz Shaw. Pickles is on the leaked front. It also said Susan returns in the finale. He did say in an interview last year with SFX that you can't tease fans and leave something overhanging to a second season. Well, he has with Susan. I think he better deliver, and it better be good.
Why Ncuti got no trousers on?
Well, this is the.
I was going to say he's showing more leg than Verada.
Yeah.
This is the question all the time. Your job is to promote a series, a drama, and how you present, what you look like, what you wear is part of that, isn't it? Let's be honest. Some Americans may not even have heard of Doctor Who, and he's making it look as though it's what? Some end of pier act? So yeah, that worries about me. That, and of course, I asked you both.
Is that seriously they've put that on the cover?
Yes, you've got two. The Ninth Doctor one is a special, and that's the one I'm dying to read. and then you've got the 15th Doctor with some strange garb on. I mean, when you look at that shot on the of Ncuti, how is that selling it to mainstream viewers? I'm not talking about the certain brigades out there. I'm talking about mainstream viewers, because mainstream viewers will go, I don't know if I can relate to a man wearing a dress. I don't think I can relate to a man who doesn't understand him. You know what I mean? It's like, I know he's an alien. I never could say, oh, I relate to the Third Doctor, but at least I understood where he was coming from regarding morals or authority. But wearing stuff like that, or can I say, lads, am I being extremely unfair? Because how did the Third Doctor looking like a dandy or Peter Davison looking like a cricketer actually fit in with anything either?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. And are they going to tell us this is a kilt again? I mean, the Doctor is not Scottish. It's clearly a dress, and they're not even original. I remember the first series of Star Trek: The Next Generation. They had male crew members in the background wearing skirts, so it's not even groundbreaking. What are they doing?
No, but you need to recognize. I mean, this is the thing: the Ninth Doctor, leather jacket, vest. Most people seem to just think, "Oh gosh, the Doctor's going gritty," and that seemed to pull people in. More people who had watched Doctor Who before. I think we're doing the opposite effect now, because we've gone down this kind of rabbit hole, it seems to me.
Yeah, you've gone from gritty to shitty, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that's it. Ship and Shaw, this show needs to end. I threw my collection in the garbage. It felt so liberating. Oh, I know. That's killer, that. I mean, I said...
Which collection?
Yeah, which collection? Come on. You're having us on. You're having us on.
And of course, one of my ups of the week is I've got one more part to do. I've been watching the Savages animation, and admittedly, the pace is different. It's a story I didn't know that very well, and so it's just nice to just enjoy the incidental music, just enjoy the different pace, and just enjoy the fact that there was a clarity to the story. And as usual, William Hartnell's missing for an episode. It's his holiday time. The usual tricks they got up to. But yeah, I've enjoyed watching that. So that's been an up part of the week.
Oh, good.
Good.
So glad you had a positive. Have you cracked your season 7 box set yet?
Nope. No. I need time. This is the problem. I need time. It's finding the time, and I don't want to rush it. You know what I mean? You want to enjoy these things. So Darko, I think the cricket was a good look for Davison, but it did frame his Doctor as a bit too lily white, goody two-shoes, lacking darker shades. But then I have to say, and yes, this is when people can shoot me down, just because you put a darker jacket on Sylvester McCoy's Doctor didn't mean that he was a darker Doctor. It just meant he was wearing a darker jacket.
I had an issue. I had an issue when they started having question marks and the Doctor's clothes became like a costume rather than like a quirk. That lost me a little bit, and obviously Colin Baker, the less said the better.
Yeah.
What a load of garbage. More question marks the better.
He's just trying to trigger us tonight.
Question marks everywhere.
You're a question mark, that's for bloody sure.
None of this 80s hate. I'm sick of this crap.
Well, we've promised tonight that we're going to talk about season 2, i.e. of 2006, David Tennant's first season, to do a proper comparison. Because we're hearing all the rumours, you've seen the trailers, you've seen streamers talking about it, including mine. But we know definitely what season 2 of the original era of RTD looked like. So should we take a look and have a good chat about this? Because I've got a fair bit to say and a fair bit to ask you, lads. Where we go season 2 versus season 2. Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. So let's do it. Here we go.
Hello, Sarah Jane.
It's you. I thought you died.
No, Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane Rose. There's nothing we can do.
Our mum's in there.
She's not your mother. Come on. I'm the Doctor, and I just snocked Madame de Pompadour.
Now he will rise
Stand down. Stand down.
We are the Legion of the Beast. I'll be giving up so soon.
Here come the ghosts. They're Cybermen.
That's not Cyberman. Location Earth. Life forms detected. Exterminate. Exterminate. Exterminate.
I love you.
Quite right. It's my last chance to say it. Rose Tyler.
There you go. Let's see if a copyright hits that.
It won't. It won't. I tested it. It won't.
Yeah, I did the test. So season 2 versus season 2. Now it's interesting because the people are kind of obviously joining in straight away here, and to see actually, this is where I personally want to start before we really look at some of the lovely episodes. Doctor Who really needs to move away from this self-contained 45-minute episode format. And I was thinking this when I was watching the Doomsday Shots and Army of Ghosts and Rise of Cybermen and Age of Steel and Impossible Planet, Satan Pit. The two-parters, even then you think, do you know, it could have been a lovely 4-parter where you could just lead us through slowly. There's episodes like School Reunion, you'd think, oh God, that would have been enjoyable if you could have just slowly taken us through that. And that's why I think, because it's a 45-minute format, the Rtd's era always looks as though we always say, oh, it's the reset. It's you know, and it is because it's so condensed. Whereas in a 4-parter, the clues are just the same as a reset sometimes, but because it's stretched out, you don't see it as obviously because, you know, you only saw the reset clue, 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah, the 45 minutes back to back do allow it to breathe a lot better. I mean, yeah, I'm okay with 2 45-minute episodes, but yeah, how often is the magic BS button pressed when you've only got 45 minutes to tell the story?
And it's funny because John Newland's saying, never liked how the season made the Cybermen canon fodder. I've never liked the way they've made them walk. I've never liked... I think they've got the Cybermen slightly wrong, I have to say, in this era.
Yeah.
Especially the way they were introduced. I mean, they changed the whole origin story at first, didn't they?
Oh, well.
See, I liked how they presented the Cybermen in real time. You know, the where they brought Colin Baker back in the webcast, where the Cybermen were the 80 Cybermen, but they were really emphasizing the superhuman strength, but they weren't stompy robots. They were, they were just, powerful and throwing people around and stuff and tearing people apart.
So Sadako here, I think Sarah's comeback would have made a great Christmas special. It's funny, isn't it, how they do these timing things? And I know what you mean. Jeremy Musical Season 2 was not as good as 1, but compared to today's Doctor Who, it's a work of art minus Love and Monsters. Actually, we're going to come to that.
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
we're going to come to that now. I'll go big screen because this is obviously a bit complex. So, as you can see here, I've done a fair few assessments of everything. So, if everybody can take a look at Season 2, the first proper one with David Tennant, you've got... I've rag rated it, and that's my version. You can disagree with me, of course. I've got Fear Her at the top. It was placed in, I think, Doctor Who TV's poll, 47th out of 47 in the era. And Love and Monsters is just ahead of that. And New Earth is just ahead of that. But you get The Girl in the Fireplace from Season 2 as the highest rated from that source. On the right-hand side, you've got the audience appreciation figures, if you are in disagreement, obviously who wrote it and all the rest of it. But you know, Fear Her and Love and Monsters, and in many ways, New Earth didn't exactly hit the ground running. In fact, I find RTD does tend to struggle with those first episodes. I mean, when
Yeah,
you look
totally. It's funny because when I first watched it, I thought it was really good, and we'll discuss later what I think about it now. I think I must have just been caught up in the hype a little bit.
right,
That's New Earth's the New York or whatever it is, isn't it? With the cat ladies.
yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'll just he's raced back from Matthew Waterhouse, so I'll just say hello to you, Dwayne.
Dwayne, how are you?
Hey, good to see you again, Doug. Hi,
Good,
everybody.
good to be seen.
Yeah, well, you've just caught us doing a kind
Perfect
of
timing.
a
Perfect
discussion on season 2 and what we thought of it. So I'll go big screen again, Dwayne, and you know, I'll start with the way we think it missed. So my choices are that I've got 4 there, based on, you know, the votes from various Doctor Who panels and sites. Fear Her, Love and Monsters, New Earth, and The Idiot's Lantern scores so badly. However, Idiot's Lantern does get 84 on audience appreciation, so I can
Really?
see there's merits to it. And some of the CGI was interesting, you know, when she's had no face and that. But Dwayne, where do you stand on the misses of season 2?
I'm going to be potentially controversial here. I have a bit of a problem with The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit, not in that it's not atmospheric or it looks and sounds really good, but I struggle understanding and comprehending the story. So I find that a little bit tricky to understand. I never had the problem with Fear Her that most people have, so that's definitely not, I wouldn't call that a miss, no.
Okay, so Fear Her, you can see merit to it. Do you know what? When they make, I mean, I'm going to mention Fear Her in this way. When they do all those shots in a very classic, modern kind of Brookside estate, it doesn't. Straight away, there's no drama. There's no. You see, Survival did this to me. When I saw Survival and where it was set, you know, when we had the shop, we were in just kind of suburban England. I struggle. I do struggle. I know you had the cats, you know, spying and stuff like that, but there wasn't enough of that setting to grab me. There's a girl in her bedroom with some, you know, pencils. I don't know. It just didn't. And the same with Love and Monsters. Seeing the Absorbalov running down some alleyway and with a light in, the whole thing in that respect doesn't work. I actually think season 2's got a problem apart from The Impossible Planet and Tooth and Claw. Too light, daylight.
I agree. Definitely agree with that.
I remember Love and Monsters really, on first watch, not being happy with it, and then but I found that for some reason it was one that I kept going back and rewatching, and the more I've watched it, the more I've really come to love it. So,
well, I obviously had to do detention because I criticised with my panel The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, which had a character that was a kind of a parody of a Doctor Who fan, the Whiz Kid on the BMX bike. But Love and Monsters is another version of The Greatest Show in the Galaxy where it's taken the mick out of Doctor Who fans. And I just wonder if this is just too meta all the time. We like it because we're Doctor Who fans in a way. We get that it's a dig at us, but what the hell does the mainstream think of all this?
Greatest Show in the Galaxy wasn't a dig at the fans. Come off it.
Well, it was a dig at the BBC executives. It was a joke about Doctor Who fans. It was a joke at lots of different things. It was very meta. But again, you've got another Doctor Who story having, doing this kind of meta stuff, and it's all an in joke. And I do sometimes wonder if Doctor Who sometimes needs to get back to just project drama, project jeopardy, and get on with that. Really. Now you see, Dwayne, we were just talking about. Cici had mentioned the 45-minute format, and New Earth is a really good example of that. If you stretch that out over 2-3 episodes, that whole bit at the end when he's rushing up and down and just saying, I'm going to just throw that concoction at them and then it all gets sorted. And it was all very fast, and what the hell happened there? Over 3 or 4 episodes, you could have just kind of sown the seeds and it would have looked less rushed. And I think, therefore, it might have been a better story.
I agree. It could have been a real good slow burn. It could have... and it was trying to be too jokey as well. If it was longer and more drawn out, it could have been much more suspenseful. And yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's that kind of balance. The 45-minute format's good at high pace if that's what you want, which RTD tends to, he does want those big, whoa, loud and colourful and... But now and again, and he does in 45-minute format do a midnight, and that was obviously much more pulled back, and that worked. But I just find for every one midnight, there's a lot of misses, and and I just think New Earth is just too light in every shape or form. Okay, you had the face of Bo dying, but
no, I think you're right. Like I said, when I first watched season 2, I really enjoyed it. But looking back on it, there's really only 4 episodes that I rate: School Reunion, Girl in the Fireplace, Impossible Planet, and The Satan Pit. All the others, I don't think are that good. But at the time, and probably because of all the hype, I enjoyed every single one of them. So I don't think it's a strong season, really.
You didn't like Army of Ghosts Doomsday?
Not in hindsight. I loved it when it came out because it was the whole gimmick, wasn't it? But that's all it was. It was a gimmick.
I think this is part of the problem about what makes a classic and what makes good entertainment sometimes. I think RTD tends to pitch it right regarding something that grabs the audience in the present. I don't have a go at me about where we are now, but he seemed to have it before. He could do a good climax to the season and all of that sort of stuff. But I just think on repeat, they don't deliver or reward as much as a classic Doctor Who does.
No, exactly. It was great the first time round because it was a bit of an event. It was a bit of a gimmick. And I was like everybody else. I thought, bloody hell, that's great. But I watched it recently and nah.
No, Simon Anthony, New Earth had so many interesting things that could have been expanded. Isn't that a shame? That sci-fi is hard, and so when you have one idea, or a few, as Simon Anthony is arguing, slow down, use it. If you're going to do arcs, just dovetail a New Earth into something else and just go slowly. I just think it tends to be wham bam thank you ma'am, which is RTD's style of narrative.
Yeah, but if you slow down a boring story, it's just a slow, boring story. So...
yeah, but isn't that the point? If you look at that season there, you could have definitely dragged out. When I say dragged out, you could have done some interesting things with The Girl in the Fireplace. You could have done interesting things with School Reunion, Tooth and Claw, for example. Fear Her, therefore, wouldn't have had any space left to be made. Neither would Love and Monsters. So the duds we're getting is because RTD is racing through as many ideas as possible without actually really expanding and developing them. He's made a rod for his own back, to be quite honest. It's this superficial fairy dust process to narrative rather than let's really enjoy this. When you had Sarah come back in School Reunion, it wasn't RTD writing it. It was somebody else who developed that idea. And how did we feel about how Sarah was actually treated?
I loved seeing her, but the whole way of treating her like an ex-girlfriend was a bit lame, and the whole bickering between Rose and Sarah Jane and comments about you're going for the younger ones. It was all a bit trite. But having said that, it was so fabulous to see Kanan and Sarah Jane back. But and this is one of the episodes I rate as one of the strongest, so we're not going well, are we?
Well, no, Dan, School Reunion.
I don't remember at the end whether I cried more when Adric died at the end of Earthshock or when K9 got blew up.
Oh, you've been a good boy.
You
I know.
Softy.
I know.
Softy.
When you see David Tennant, I have to say David Tennant early doors here I preferred. the stories you can judge in a different way, but I actually liked how he delivered the Doctor in the early days. And
Yeah.
when
Credit
he
where credit's due. Yeah.
yeah, when he crouched on the floor and you've been a good dog, and I don't know, it was just like, yeah, you've got it. And the way the way he talked to Sarah Jane, yes, and when he saw her in the staff room, he really did look as though, oh, it's Sarah Jane. I mean, just good acting, of course, and he's a fan. But and I don't
think
know.
he clearly got the gravity of what was happening on screen. Could you imagine, like, one of the other doctors that wasn't a fan? They're not like David Tennant knew the gravity of what he was doing with Sarah Jane's return, and he acted accordingly.
Yeah, that was good.
I mean, when you think Ncuti's first episode, I'll ignore the giggle because it was us just at the end. But when you saw his first one, the church on Ruby Road, and have him running along a rooftop, and then he grabs a ladder, I actually do think RTD was trying to do exactly what he did with Christmas Invasion, when they're fighting on the top of the Sycorax ship. You know, I'm a fighting doctor, and all the rest of it. And But for every pitch of that worked with David Tennant, I honestly didn't feel it works with Ncuti, because you then have a song and dance routine, and then you have other things that just take it away. And the story, although the companions were important in Christmas Invasion, and carried a lot of the story, it's his entrance that is actually pivotal to the whole story. Whereas
absolutely.
Ncuti got waylaid in Church and Ruby Road by obviously the foster care situation and social services and all that stuff. And you think, this is where I think RTD is just getting too clever ass and should go back to the Doctor is the hero. The Doctor's arrival is the big moment. That's what you do. I much prefer Christmas Invasion to the Church on Ruby Road. Dwayne, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, me too. And I don't particularly enjoy the Christmas Invasion, but it's head and shoulders above Church on Ruby Road. That is for sure. But you were talking about I can't remember what you're talking about now. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Give me another question.
It was a good dinner then, wasn't it?
No, so you've got the Sycorax.
It was.
The Sycorax was a better monster as well and villain than actually the Goblin King.
Definitely.
Maybe better effects, but that's a moot point. But basically, I just thought there were much more. I don't know. There was something about the Sycorax that really worked as a creature and as a an enemy. That worked.
I love the way the Sycorax were talking their own language.
Yeah.
And then it slowly merged into English.
Yeah, that was good.
The TARDIS was becoming responsive,
good.
So that was a good use of that.
That was really clever
as well. Even though David Tennant's not in that episode a lot, there were characters that we loved from season 1 or grew to love from season 1 that were really carrying that well. And on reflection, right now in this second, it was a decent introduction story.
It was a clever crossover. It was really clever crossover, and David Tennant's entrance was superb, I thought.
What about the idea, we had Charles Dickens in The Unquiet Dead, and I think that seemed to land quite well. And
I enjoyed that one.
And they were writing quite fast. Once season 1 was working, they commissioned season 2 and 3 quite fast. And not quite the back-to-back situation we've got now of filming, but for The Unquiet Dead, there's no surprise you get Tooth and Claw. Because instead of Charles Dickens, you get Queen Victoria. You can see what they're doing. Does it work a second time, the same trick? Because, of course, for every little joke they had with Charles Dickens, I don't know if I really like this. There was a moment, I don't mean the story, I mean the cheeky daft bits, because when Rose, and they were about to be chased by the werewolf, so there was a real moment of jeopardy, and Rose is saying, "Are you amused now?" And I'm thinking...
that was a bit lame, wasn't it? They were trying to get the Queen to say it, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm thinking you might die. This is not the moment you would joke. It's just... No. I don't know. Dan, am I being too kind of... I mean, honestly, yes, it's a historical. We want another joke with a historical figure. Does it work the second time, though?
Oh, look, I thought it was a bit of fun. I didn't have a problem with it. I like the whole, royal family as werewolves. I thought it was cool.
And of course, it led into our Torchwood Institute, which is almost the arc
Yes.
of the season, isn't it?
Pretty much.
You know the I still remember the opening ninja monk scene. I'm thinking,
Yes.
that's
Just
cool.
about
That's
to say that.
yeah,
Great cold open.
yeah, it's so
It was
good.
very good. It was very good, yeah.
Yeah,
It had some high points. The transformation scene to the werewolf was great too. Let down a little bit by the werewolf effects, but I thought the transformation scene was kind of on a par with American Werewolf in London. It was quite good.
I found it interesting. Yeah, it's a good point to make about, in Doctor Who world, we've had the abominable snowmen, remember the abbots and all the rest of it. And then when you see in Tooth and Claw, that amazing, like you say, that their assault and the slow motion in the air and all the rest of it. I thought, I love this. That felt, that was on point to me. That, I mean, loved the setting and what they did with it, but it was just, I don't know. Again, that would have been a classic 4-episode story, Tooth and Claw. You really could have unwound that slowly, and the moon's out, and then there's another kind of hunting spat. Honestly, it could have been great. And you could have done more with the monks then.
Of course, keep in mind too that Tooth and Claw was different to The Unquiet Dead in that this was also setting up a spin-off series.
Yeah.
So this and the following episode were both spin-off series. So this one was obviously Torchwood, which I don't recall. Well, I don't think I knew at the time it was going to be Torchwood yet, but they were dropping it as the little.
Yeah,
series 1 had Bad Wolf
right.
being dropped throughout. This had Torchwood being dropped throughout, and then as
the
series progressed, we got the announcement of Torchwood coming out.
I remember being as a Doctor Who fan going, oh my God, they've done an anagram of Doctor Who and it's worked. I mean, I thought that was pretty neat. That was pretty clever, that to go from Doctor Who to Torchwood. I thought, you've made it work. Little things like that. So, I think like you, Dwayne, it was a surprise. John Yulden here, good to see you. I did like how in Tooth and Claw, the Doctor and Rose have become far too cocky and complacent, and this leads to their downfall with Torchwood in the finale. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Fair point.
I haven't seen...
I do remember being happy that towards the end of season 2 when, Rose was taken down a peg or two and she was being ushered out, because I kind of felt the same way by that stage, similar to how I felt towards Clara at the end. It's like, come on, get her out. Move on.
I mean, it's very interesting this season too. I'm getting people criticizing, people praising the same stuff, and it's like, wow, I think it is a bit of a more of a Marmite season than I thought initially. The first, the worst bit of Tooth and Claw was how they treated Queen Victoria. I mean, Pauline Collins, for God's sake. You could have done more with her. And she seemed to be there to do some jokes, and she has a jewel on her that'll help you with the end resolution. Dead Man, I do not think it accurate to say Sarah Jane would not have acted as she did in School Reunion simply because she was not a love interest. I remember, we're going to talk about Hand of Fear later and what Liz Sladen wanted for her farewell. She made some very interesting points, Liz Sladen, about Doctor Who when she did her farewell. And we'll just see what the lads think. Sadako, I wondered if it was hinting the humour was Rose's coping mechanism with the danger, but now I think it was just reflective of Rtd'S love of being a troll. I don't know. It's not the historicals like the John Lucarottis and stuff, is it, doing all this? David Harding, in Tooth and Claw, the worst moment for me was when they kept trying to get the Queen to say we are not amused. It felt off when we watched the night that story first aired. It was a clunky scene.
Lame.
Look, we're here again. Do you know what I'm going to say? Queen Victoria, we are not amused joke in season 2 of Doctor Who, and I'm going to say to you in the second special, Mavity, Isaac Newton.
Yeah.
It's this, forget timey-wimey, forget Madman in a Box and all their kind of proprietorial changing of what Doctor Who actually means. The truth is, they are taking historical figures from British culture and they're taking the pee. That's what they're doing. There's no respect for history. This isn't a loving kind of, moment of history. No, it's taking the pee. But then when you add to that, and this is when Brendan Rant, this is when, if you think about it, when they do their preachy stuff, which we know they're doing, and their DEI and all the rest of it, when they've got that component forced into lots of parts of the narrative now, and then when they do a historical character and they take the P, or they make science fiction timey-wimey and a whole load of B, you just think, I thought you were running a science fiction drama show, but you don't seem to want to do anything to do with Blinovitch limitation effect and try and make it look logical. You take the mick out of anybody historical, but oh my God, somebody's 15 years old and blah, blah, blah. Whoa, that's the serious issue. That's when I hit my problem.
You know, it is interesting. They seem to have a problem with playing with Egyptology, but it's okay to play with your own history. So I don't know.
Oh, of course. And I'm sorry to everybody in the thread. I should have done this first. Yep.
All your maggots are bent there.
Yes. I mean, yeah, so the medication isn't working there. TMR, the relationship between Doc and Rose made me want to barf, and the implied relationship between the Doc and Sarah Jane made me want to shoot my TV. Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Yes, you do need the detox, but I know what you mean.
If you felt like that, how'd you feel about the Thomas Child?
Oh, the Devil's Card. I was like, oh, God. I know. He's got no TVs left in his house. But Rtd admitted he just thinks it's funny that fans like me think it's a big deal because of the Mavity. I do think there might be an episode where we go back to that Mavity, it looks like to me, where they're flying through the air. But this one, the Idiot's Lantern, you know, I've never really wanted to go back and watch. I like Maureen Lipman. She's a good little villain from the TV screen. I don't think the effects are any issue.
No.
It's a gruesome effect, and the thought that you lose your, it's like the Faceless Ones idea, literally.
It's kind of wasted, really, because it was very effective, but it was wasted on a bad story, I felt.
And in a way, I don't mind. This is when Doctor Who kind of gets cheeky, and I don't mind this version when it's kind of TV addiction or TV can do you damage, that kind of.
I thought this was solid, this story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked the way it resolved.
I did too. I've never understood the problems that people have with it. It always seems to get into the bottom lists, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit of a Mark Gatiss fan because I always tend to like his scripts, and this is no exception. I really enjoy this one a lot. I like the period. I like the concepts.
Like the characterization.
I think the portrayal of the father has been a bit criticised in the past, but that's just writer's choice, I suppose. That's how he wanted to write him. So, and maybe he's had experience of someone like that in his family. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it all just seemed okay to me. Overall.
The thing is, for the 1953 coronation, you had the Doctor and Rose on a moped. They do their hair up, and it's a bit of a laugh, and then we get on with the story. That seems to be the way we treat Doctor Who now. Then when you look at the clip for season 2 now, and Verada Sethu and the Doctor run into some circular cupboard in the TARDIS, run out in their 50s gear, ready to go and enter. And it's just the same as the 1963 episode with Millie last year when they run, get changed immediately. They're I'm up for this. Oh, it's the Beatles. And this seems to be how RTD approaches history. Now, once you get on with the story, I thought it was interesting to have that dad as the villain in a way, really, as well. I mean, there's more than one villain, and I think that touched a kind of realistic base. It's a bit like when you watch one of Chris Chibnall's and some of the villains were humans. But I just think I don't like this kind of the Doctor and the companion getting all excited and giddy in a daft way about that type of history. Can you imagine Barbara in the Aztecs doing this? Go on, Dan, sorry.
No, I was just thinking about the characterization of the dad. I felt that Mark Gatiss had a good handle on a generation of people that had that PTSD
Yeah.
post-war, and like I do recall older like my great grandfather's generation and friends and people that I came across who came from that era and time and had been to war and things like that. There was an aggressiveness, or felt like there was an aggressiveness that you don't. It's certainly not there today, I guess, because most of us have never seen or experienced war.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that to me, those touches work, but I think Doctor Who struggles more with the contemporary history, 53, 63.
Can I pick up on the comment? Can I pick up on the comment I saw? Someone said that this episode was obnoxious. I'm curious, how was it obnoxious? Could you let us know? Because I
wouldn't go that far. But then that's personal taste, I guess. But that's a bit extreme.
Yeah, well, Sadako will come back. TV Rots Your Brains was also his thought. Idiot's Lantern was just obnoxious. I almost stopped caring after that one. So, yeah, Sadako, just, as Dwayne said, give us a development of that.
My parents and grandparents said that TV will rot your brain. Don't sit so close to the TV. I got all that in the 70s and 80s.
And that was those generations that I was talking about. Like, there was a lot of that talk, you know.
Yeah, there was. You'll get square eyes. That's what
square eyes. Yeah, it rings true to me.
Now this one, it got 7th out of the 47 of New Who. It scores well on audience appreciation, and it scores well overall. So it seems to be a strong contender in the season, and it's another Stephen Moffat one. Now, there's different things to say about this one. There's the one that I think, when you do reflect, there is an issue about the age thing, and it's all on the same path as the Amy Pond being a little girl first when she sees the 11th Doctor. There's an issue there. However, there's that one, and actually, on the strength side, I loved the shock I got when she was dead.
Yeah.
You have this, it's an interesting relationship. She has a fella and all that stuff, and then the Doctor wasn't, I mean, I didn't like the fireplace concept. It felt like I was watching a theatrical production. The way it clunkily moved, it was just like watching a play. That felt a bit cheap. However, as a concept, it worked. And the Doctor being so flippant, just rushing back and, she's aged 20 years. She's dead. That really got me. The music, Murraygold's music's phenomenal in this. I thought it was.
I just love the clockwork people. Those clockwork people were really effective and quite spooky.
Especially that scene where you hear the ticking under the bed, and then she goes to look under the bed.
Yeah, the whole under the bed thing. Yeah, definitely paranoia.
That was really well executed.
It really was.
Do you think
it's a tight episode for 45 minutes. There's a lot in that episode.
Yeah, they pack a lot in.
Yeah, and I think David Tennant gained as well, didn't he? Because I think there was a relationship a little bit after this. No surprise.
Well, I must say that I would watch this episode just for Sophia Miles alone. She's very pleasant on the eye.
She's gorgeous, gorgeous.
She is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Doctor Who at this point was getting, like I said, the Zoe Wanamaker's. You have Pauline Collins. You're getting some really interesting heavyweight characters, actors, and then you get Sophia. Whoa! It just sometimes Doctor Who started to look like it was a mini movie. I mean, we always can do the costumes with the BBC, but gosh, when you see something like this, and I have to say, David Tennant wasn't looking too bad at this point either as well. I mean, gosh, it looked like Casanova was being made again. Look, I do have issues with the child bit, but I don't have to keep repeating them. It's just a bit of awkwardness that I suppose in retrospect it's a shame, because it's a good story.
Well, it's not like he was protecting the child. It wasn't like he was hitting on her.
Yeah, she hit on him. It was her that made the first move.
But that's the same excuse for the Amy Pond one as well, isn't it?
I guess, yeah.
They were adults.
No, but that's
Come
not how it
on.
works. If you've known the person when they were a kid, there is an issue about, and it's there's a certain verb beginning with G they use. Teachers have to be aware of this. You know, you can't obviously date an ex-student. You know, there are laws about this, and so it's great being a writer to write all this stuff. But if I was 25 teaching a kid aged 18, and then a few years later we started dating, there is a law against it now, you know, because I could. There's influence that's more than just two people dating.
It wasn't that kind of a relationship when she was a girl. It wasn't like that at all. So for anyone to say that it was, I think is stretching it a bit far.
It's just
anyway. We don't even know. We don't even know that they consummated the thing anyway.
There's more of a problem probably with the Amy Pond one, I have to say. I think that's problematic. But yeah, these Cybermen, by the way, what did we make of them when they came back? I know Doug had mentioned a little bit about the Cybermen. I mean, you look at that picture and you think they look more fearsome than maybe Earthshock, but I think they were undermined by that margin.
I liked them. I liked them at the time, but again, in hindsight, not so much. But I did like them at the time.
No, I like these episodes a lot. The only thing that confused me was why they had to take it to an alternate universe and make a sort of a Genesis type story. I didn't think it was necessary. They could have just redesigned the Cybermen, been done a heap of times before in the classic series. There's no need to go into that. And just do a, you know, people talk about the stomping. I kind of liked the stomping. I thought
I didn't mind that.
Effective.
I didn't mind that.
There was one scene in, I think it was part 2, which is the Age of Steel. Was it the Age of? Yeah, it would have been the Age, where they go down underneath into some kind of bunker, and there's a row of them. And I think the Doctor is with that lady. I can't remember the lady's name. It's been ages since I've seen it. They called her Mrs. Moore. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
They're going through this underground area, and the Cybermen start waking up, and I thought that was so scary. It was so well done.
It was very spooky.
And I just love those episodes. They get panned a lot, but I love them.
Joanne, I mean, Doug made my little package of the video because I ran out of time, and I appreciate that, Doug. I had got some clips together, Joanne, and one of them was that bit with Mrs. Moore when you got those. Whoa, that was dark, a dark, very very dark corridor, and I really did.
It was great.
That was fab. And then, of course, you've also got that other issue in that story, which was, did Mrs. Moore get turned into us? I can't remember, but
yeah, she got killed outright.
Yeah,
yes, they killed her. Yeah,
and wasn't one of the Cybermen her? And you know, when he had to kind of operate on the Cyberman, and he got the nerves and everything, and
no, that was a different one, and Mrs. Moore was there watching.
Sally Phelan.
And the emotional circuit had been reconnected or something. And Mrs. Moore was there, and she was feeling sorry for the Cyberman. And then next thing, another Cyberman comes from behind and touches her on the shoulder, shocks her to death.
Yes. Yeah, it was that emotional thing. I loved that. It's a bit like when they did it with the World Enough and Time with the Bill Potts thing and the silence and the pain, and you switch it off. So Darko's come back to your question, Dwayne. About Idiot's Lantern being obnoxious. I just remember Ten and Rose and the Idiot's Lantern being very loud and smoke. It had a sense of empty sound and fury about it. Maybe I was expecting more than Gattis after Unquiet Dead. I think Sadak was picking up on that point, the moped bit and everything, and I don't know. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me when you see the Doctor and whoever is the companion larking around for a couple of minutes with something iconic from that decade. You think, oh, get on with it.
Let's test this. So, Sadako, answer this in the chat. You've got Praxius or Idiot's Lantern? Which one do you go for?
I can't answer that.
That's a loaded question.
With Pete McTighe last week.
Or Paladin. I can get that in.
See, Dwayne's compromised because he's mates with all these guys.
They're not always. Nobody's ever perfect. Thomas McCarthy. I didn't like the girl in the fireplace first time around. Now it looks like Shakespeare compared to what's served up. Yeah, I know this. It is a shocker, isn't it? When you think, gosh, when you look back. John Yulden, they are just tin men in this era. You see, John is really not happy with the Cybermen, and I'm kind of on his path a bit. I like it a bit, like Dwayne has said, that those quieter moments with the Cybermen. Strangely, they looked the best in the Chibnall era. They also mentioned its brains in head and everything else in the machine. Cybermen still have flesh, which is good. DeMarpin, Mrs.
I also thought the bit where Ricky was killed by the Cybermen. So Mickey and Ricky were together.
Yes.
And it's like, which one are they going to get? And so Ricky climbs and they grab his foot while he's trying to climb a fence or something. That was pretty funny. There's some really good moments in this story.
And
I do agree with Don. I
Mickey
think the
Clark
design of the
just flips.
Cybermen were better in the Chibnall era. But that doesn't mean the story was better. So I definitely would take this story over anything I saw those Chibnall Cybermen.
And this is the early RTD. The Ricky and Mickey, one of the brothers was gay. And it's referenced at the very end saying, oh, well, I'm sorry, you're going to keep seeing my face, but I'm not, but that's it. It's just little, that's life. That's just, it's not a whole blooming narrative, and it's not levered in and all the rest of it. And I just think this is the problem, that he did say during this era that there's dark times in the world and we need Doctor Who. And now we've got dark times again when we need Doctor Who. But the difference is he seems to think they're so dark now that we have to get all this rainbow stuff. And he goes too far. Now, just to cheer us up for a second here on the detox, and obviously, Dwayne, especially, you are big on your big finish. We've got a few tasty ones coming up, haven't we? Are they out now? Have you got them? The ninth.
Oh no, are you talking about the Doctor and Rose? No, these are coming out in a few months' time. So this is the next series of Ninth Doctor. We didn't know whether he was going to be back because it was announced down from Big Finish for a while, but this well, actually, to be honest, I didn't expect this to come so soon, but it ties in very well with the 20th anniversary. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and
are they planning to recover? Are they planning to recover after the season 2? They're going to give it some breathing room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's interesting characters here. I mean, if you look at the villains and various, pteroleptals and Syl, they're always well worth it. Jadoon, and yeah, I mean, it looks gritty stuff. I know I'm going to have to get tempted if this is if the actual TV series is losing its kind of traction. So let's have a look. Take us through to the next piece.
And I will say that some of the classic Doctors, when they come out, they're a lot older than they were, so some of them sound their age. So if you're going in fresh, you're not going to have that time where you've got used to. But Chris Eccleston sounds exactly the same as he did in season 1, so you're not going to be disappointed with his portrayal here.
Yeah.
Sadako 24 says, I don't think I saw Praxius, but I'd probably watch Idiot's Lantern over Orphan 55.
Well, it's interesting when Dwayne says Chris Eccleston still sounds the same. Sack RTD. Sack Jane Trant. Yes, I can hear that. I can. Anyway.
At least you know where he stands.
Yeah, and he's brave enough to say it as well. Right, okay. I'm going to just play this music just to link us to Hand of Fear. So everybody just be ready.
100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91.
Dead easy. Like and subscribe, please. Do it now if you can. I'd appreciate that. So, of course, season 2, and I'm not spending today doing season 2. It gets enough traction, and they spill out daft little crumbs all the time, and that's it. But we talked about the Get Her Home idea, which to me is like boring, but it did give me the idea to let's look back at Hand of Fear when Liz Sladen apparently got home, but she later says in School Reunion they actually got to Aberdeen. She was nowhere near Croydon at all, she says. I've got Dwayne there. So, Hand of Fear. I mean, thoughts, lads, as Doctor Who fans. I mean, this is... Go on. I'll shut up. Dan, Hand of Fear.
I love this story. I think it's great. And there's a Dr. Carter in it, so that's even better. I love Rex Roxburgh in this. I like female Eldred. I was a bit put out when she came back as Stephen Thorne. At the time, I remember... it's an amazing concept, especially seeing that as a kid. It's like, wow, you can crush someone and then have a ring bring you back kind of thing. It's really cool. But even how cool was it when they rejuvenate the hand and all that? And
yeah, that was clever.
Elizabeth Sladen does an amazing job acting possessed in this too.
It's so hard for some for actors to be in Doctor Who in some ways, because you have to be blind, you have to be possessed. It's not run of the mill. I know they're actors, but not everybody does it to the right degree. Now, great to see you, Brian, the Zero Room. I just watched The Hand a few nights ago. Still holds up. Best companion farewell ever. And now, Liz Sladen said, Dwayne, in this one, that she didn't want to be killed off, hopefully. They were going to kill her off, so thank God that script didn't come through, because School Reunion would have been shot dead completely. But basically, she didn't want to be married off, like Leela will eventually be. She just wanted to leave. And when they were thinking of doing a narrative where she's more instrumental and, the farewell's the big story, she said, no, it's about Doctor Who. And she didn't think the companion arc was fundamental to the show. And that bit, Dwayne, I found fascinating. Liz Sladen, I tell you what, Liz Sladen was no fool, was she? She was good on their rights. She was good on payments for autographs. She knew her stuff. She could tell the Liverpool links there. I tell you, she knew her stuff. She might come across as really lovely woman, but she's no fool. And I'd have to say, in her farewell story, the story is about Doctor Who. Back me off. Please, Lenny Main, can I just have a freeze frame at the end as a gift? And he allowed that. So, Dwayne, it's fascinating how she seemed to have a better grasp of Doctor Who than some people who are making it now.
She did then, and she always, ever since, had a huge respect for her character. So even though she felt that way about the show itself, she still had that respect for the character. So to put her foot down on a couple of those points was a very, very good thing, that she did that. We had the companion going off in the Green Death and getting married. That was done exceptionally well, but you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again.
No.
And it was done with Leela, but that was like born of necessity. It had to be done fast because of a quick decision, so they had to do something. But you can see how terrible things like that can be. But this was a beautiful scene. What did it take? 10 minutes or so of the final episode to have that beautiful scene inside the TARDIS between the two. Not a hint.
Don't forget me.
Not
Don't
a
forget
hint
me.
Not a hint of sexual tension. It was just that mutual respect for each other, and she loved him in her own way, not in the way that Rose was going to love the Doctor of the future. It was incredibly well done.
It was
and
lovely.
It was almost. Dwayne, I echo what you're saying. There was an element where Tom Baker and Liz Sladen in that TARDIS scene, and I know they adapted bits and bobs and that, and fair dues, it worked. But when she said, "Don't forget about me," and when he kind of just exhales, doesn't he? He's kind of
under his breath. It's so good.
It's catchy. It's kind of underplayed.
Yeah.
Obviously,
but more impactful because of it. It's brilliant.
Obviously, if I did What Would the Shooty Doctor Do, I dare say that there've been some tears. But you don't need it. The whole point was the way Tom Baker acted. You could see he was going, "Oh God, Sarah, come on! Of course I'm going to." It was just wow. I have to say, as some people are saying, I mean, some people are thinking it's a fairly average story, but the farewell scene, phenomenal.
It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. Yeah.
And look, to me as a kid, had one of the best cliffhangers of all time. A hand moving in a Tupperware box. I mean, that's all you need. I mean,
that's all you need. It's great.
But actually, overall, I'll be honest, and it was classic Bob Baker and Dave Martin. They're very good at doing different. You jump from one scenario to another one. So, like in The Invisible Enemy, you go from Titan to somewhere else. Here, of course, you were at a nuclear power station, and then suddenly we're out in the stars. They're good at that sort of thing. But I struggled with the nuclear power plant stuff. I found it a little bit on the flat side. I found it a shame, and actually Philip Hinchcliffe thinks it's a shame that in the first 2 episodes of the 4-parter, Sarah hasn't got much to do. Since it's her farewell story, she's walking around possessed, but he just says on retrospect. So come then, I'll go through. Doug, if I say Hand of Fear, what are your highlights, lowlights, or whatever?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I've got to say I love that TARDIS set. That really works for me. I think they could have really embellished that, but I think it got damaged or something, didn't it? And they couldn't use it anymore. That goodbye scene where he just says, "Don't forget me," under his breath. I love there's something about disembodied hands that just gives me the creeps. I thought Sarah Jane or Liz Sladen did a great performance with the being possessed. Like I said, I haven't watched it for quite a few years, but I remember really enjoying it and genuinely being moved when she left. It was lovely. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So to me, it was the cliffhanger for part 1, Dwayne. That was the key moment as a kid, and then the farewell to Sarah. And actually, when I thought that freeze frame was brilliant. So we have a problem with freeze frames in the 70s, like The Deadly Assassin when Mary Whitehouse freaks out. But that freeze frame when she looks back at the stars and she's whistling, oh my God, that resonates so much. You're going, oh, I really hated Sarah Jane leaving. I hated Joe Grant leaving, but it dragged it out. I mean, it was only a split second, but it really worked. And that impact has never left me, really. And I think that people like David Tennant, when he did get School Reunion, I think he tapped into this.
It also really upped the stakes for what was about to come with the anticipation of the 4th Doctor going back to Gallifrey in the next story. It's like there's a foreboding about what's about to happen.
But this is go on, Dwayne. I can see you're about to speak.
The main low light for me was when the female Eldrad became the male Eldrad. I was very sad to see Judith Paris go, because I enjoyed watching her very, very much.
She was great.
I'm saying a few times tonight is people are pleasant on the eye. What's the matter with me?
Nothing.
I also have another really special moment. It's a very personal moment with Hand of Fear. I don't know if it was I think it might have been episode 1 where that doctor is examining the Doctor, and he grabs his arm, and the Doctor goes like that and says, "Oh, wonderful thing, pain." And my dad was watching the episode with me at that time, and he really laughed at that. He thought that was a great joke, and I always think of my dad whenever I see that scene. So that's just a personal memory of mine that relates to Hand of Fear that I always love.
Yeah,
that's nice.
I know that this is it. I mean, Doug's always saying this. It's the personal memories and experiences attached to the program sometimes. That actually grabs you. I haven't got any attachments with Hand of Fear. It's you don't know what's happened to you in your life. I obviously was just getting through it. It was October 76 for me. The Andy Pandy overalls, everyone calls them Andy Pandy. It's even referenced in the dialogue in the episode, the Andy Pandy overalls. And it's a shame. Fashion was interesting, and I sometimes think fashion, when you see a repeat, you're going, you can imagine Sarah Jane Smith now could have been, I don't know. It's of its time, I suppose. But it's a shame in her farewell she's dressed as Andy Pandy. But I know.
It was the 70s.
You know who we haven't mentioned is Glenn Houston's. So much is hanging off him desperately trying to create a sense of tension or urgency out of nothing.
While he's calling his wife saying, "Sorry, I can't get home for dinner." I'll be
Yeah,
as quick as I
yeah.
can.
Yeah,
It's
and then
bringing it
he's
down
having to
earth.
do like really awkward announcements over the PA system. It's like we've had a meltdown. Everyone, just get back to work.
And did you hear that in initial plans, the Brigadier was going to come back and save the world?
Yeah.
Harry Sullivan and Sarah was going to die. So it was going to be a bit more dramatic.
Oh, that would have been horrible.
But you see, the thought that you're going to kill off Sarah Jane Smith in one version, and then when you've got Leela, and I take what you're saying, Dwayne, it was last minute, blah blah blah, but she's a warrior. It was obvious that she should have been
made
killed.
no sense, really.
Yeah, kill her.
She should have went down in glory.
Yeah.
With an amazing kill or something.
Exactly. She
lived by the knife. She should have died by the knife.
She jumps in front of the Doctor. It's a bit of Romeo and Juliet. She gets herself in the way of the sword, something like that. Lee Smith, thanks for telling us, because I forgot the name. Because obviously they were doing parodies, weren't they, this whole era. So basically, the Mummy was Pyramids of Mars, and of course the Beast with 5 fingers, the Hand of Fear. Yeah, I mean, what a great gothic era it was. It really was. David Harding, Harry Sullivan leaving was probably my first actual departure, but Sarah leaving was the more impactful one. Yeah, I'm a bit older, so Joe Grant, it did get me. Because he seemed to dwell outside that little nut hutch for quite a long time, I thought, John Pertwee's Doctor.
Harry never really left either. He kind of, at the end of Terror of the Zygons, said, I might just drive back to Unit HQ, and then there was no goodbyes or anything. It was just, we'll see when we get there. And they never did.
Yeah.
But that's the magic of that era, is that it's a bit like how you don't notice the TARDIS is missing in season 12. The story just takes you away, and it's like, there's nothing to see here. But when you watch the Hinchcliffe era, they do a really good job of having the brig turn up and disappear, and it's not sort of signposted that, hey, these guys have all gone.
No.
Yeah. This one is, to me, the Hand of Fear just tells me how obsessed we all were with Tupperware in the 70s. It's just like, it's just, but that was the thing that I always take away with it, is this hand in a Tupperware box, of all things.
We might be slow to catch up in Australia, because there's still plenty of Tupperware around my place. I know that.
Yeah, it seems to be.
It never goes away.
It's unbreakable.
The other thing about the Hand of Fear was, did you think, and there's nothing wrong with this, so, the Beast with 5 fingers is obviously whether it was echoing, but the other thing is, it seemed very Superman. I don't know, there was an element where the origin story for Superman seemed to be borrowed into here a bit. Did anyone kind of get that vibe, especially with the beginning of part 1?
I didn't at the time, but I see it now that you mention it,
Yeah, same.
It's not a criticism. It's just, it seemed very, I don't know, the iconography and everything seemed to be playing into that a little bit. And of course, you're up against a movie, Christopher Reeve's movie with all the special effects, and then you've got good old Doctor Who.
So what year did that come? Was it the same year, or didn't Superman come out a bit later?
It is a bit later, but it's that period, isn't it? It's everything.
78, I think.
Yeah. So, lovely Hand of Fear. There she is. She did have to do some strange... her facial reactions in this one are fascinating. She really does do it very differently. And when you're talking about... Since we're talking about beautiful women, she looked lovely when she... I liked her during this period. She looked really nice. Now, Dwayne,
hey,
you've had a late night. You've been busy recently as with Sirens of Audio, your great stream and podcast, where basically you've been entertaining in Adelaide today, haven't you? With Matthew Wardhouse. I know you've done a few gigs with him now, but I just thought I'd first of all just show some of the latest of what you've been up to, everybody, and. Dwayne might want to add a few thoughts as we go, and then we'll talk about the Adric files, the highs and lows.
Signing at Melbourne.
I remember you texting saying he was good crack. He was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's great to be around. Very easy. We did a on the spot commentary for Logopolis Part 1. That was his choice, and had a great time doing that.
What were his memories? Because if he picked that, it's fascinating, because Tom was playing very cranky at this point. Obviously, it's a funereal story anyway. So basically, Tom's playing the fact that, the TARDIS isn't working anymore. I need to hide. And there was all that in the dialogue. And then, of course, I can imagine it's always an upsetting one for the actor when they're leaving. Did Matthew bring anything out about what was going on?
Yes, he did. He said there was always tension, particularly when he started, because we had the tension constantly between Lala and Tom.
Yeah.
So he was a sort of an intruder into that space. But once Lala left, he said a lot of the tension went as well.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Bros before hoes.
So what's been going on? You've had a few gigs now, haven't you? And you've done your podcast interviewing him as well.
Well, yeah, we did the podcast with the interview a couple of months ago. That went really well. We've done one show in Melbourne last week with a VIP dinner. We did a VIP dinner tonight, which I've just come from, and we're doing a show in Adelaide tomorrow, where he'll be doing interviews and Q&As, signings, photographs. And today we spent the day just having a look around Adelaide. So we went down to Glenelg and experienced the wonderful public transport that is the buses of Adelaide, and
sarcasm.
Rode the tram and we went to Rundle Mall looking for Doug. But we couldn't find him dancing anywhere.
Not yet.
And from this shot here, you also seem to have a little bonus extra.
We did. We had a surprise appearance from Pete McTighe, who, of course, spent a lot of years here. And in fact, he started his writing career in Australia writing for Neighbours, and then he did a lot of writing for Wentworth, which is a very popular series, and got into Doctor Who through, I think, Chris Chibnall enjoyed his stuff on Wentworth, and so Chibnall is the one who got him into writing for the TV series. But of course, he's done those amazing things for the Blu-rays and other bits and pieces. So yeah.
So there you go. So we thought it was a good reason for us to do a little bit of a kind of sideways glance at the Matthew Waterhouse era. I'll call it the Adric files, because he is one of those Marmite characters, I have to say. I'm not talking about Matthew. I'm just talking about the character. And it was quite funny because if you go online, there's various things said. The boy we love to hate. That's what some people would say. Another version, a broken star. A notorious moment, that wasn't it, with Richard Todd, apparently. But this is the question, lads, and thread. What is the best and worst of Adric? So when you look at that era, can you shout out any moments when you think, no, Adric was given a good moment then, or was given something to do? Because it was a crowded TARDIS, of course. I think we're quite well worn on some of the downsides, but where would you go with Wayne? I mean, I dare say he's quite critical himself. I bet you Matthew Waterhouse, he's very well aware of where Adric stands.
Well, he is, but at the same time, he's quite proud of Adric, and he had a specific thing that he wanted to do. He always wanted to maintain that Adric was an alien, so he wouldn't act always in a human type way. But I think, well, I expressed to him, and he kind of agrees as well, that his best period, or his highs, if you're looking for highs right now, would have to be the time that was just him and the Fourth Doctor, so Keeper of Traken and Logopolis, the majority of Logopolis. So those were the highs. Those two worked so well together as characters, I think. The relationship was really good. When you had the younger Doctor, they became more like brothers. The Fourth Doctor and Adric was more sort of mad uncle type character with, you had more opportunity to respect that. And I think that worked a lot better. So Keeper of Traken and Logopolis, I think that would be his highlights as a character.
Yeah, and I've got an example here from somebody when they're answering this best and worst of Adric. Full Circle and Logopolis is the best. Also like the scene in Cold Fusion when Seven meets Adric. Well, that's a different mishmash. But I see what you mean with the Logopolis. He's a mathematical nerd as a character, and so of course Logopolis would play into that. When you're talking about the comparison with later on when he's with Davison, since I'm minding our mum and dad's little puppy now, this little Shih Tzu, so I could be dashing around at any point. It reminds me of when you see a puppy with a big dog, an old big dog. And so there's Tom Baker, this old big dog that can bark and it can growl. And then I see Adric and Keeper of Traken and Logopolis as a little puppy ducking around and trying not to get bitten. And, you know, there's that going on with Logopolis. And there's that lovely shot when Adric's on top of the TARDIS and the measuring and all the rest of it. And it looks as though the Fourth Doctor at this point has got no time for anyone. And, you know, and Adric, like a little puppy, is just trying to dart around and, you know, pant and look pleased. I don't know. That I see what you're saying, Dwayne, and I kind of go in that path a bit.
He was observing that during the commentary that we did for Logopolis, that Matthew, you could see that he was intently looking at Tom while he was delivering his lines, and Tom was just staring out to space, you know, just not interested in making eye contact at all. So it was interesting to see that actors dynamic, but I still say the characters themselves worked exceptionally well in those two stories.
Yeah. And just before I bring the other panelists in, I mean, obviously people have got different thoughts on this. Sadako 24, he was a complete brat in Fort of Doomsday and Kinder. It's like the writers wanted us to hate him rather than give him a chance. And, you know, Turler was a victim of that. You know, it was a trilogy, but then he settles down. But he was always kind of that. You never forget the trilogy bit. That guy from C to Alpha, Tom Baker, didn't think much about Matthew and made no bones about it. I hear the stories, but then I think, but when you're on set, aren't you supposed to all be professional though in how you deal with this? I don't like those stories.
I thought I recalled in the Tom Baker years, Tom actually talking affectionately about Adric at that stage.
I know
when he was talking over the clip.
That was in hindsight, though, wasn't it?
There's talk that in State of Decay, they had to have a word with Matthew and various. You know, there's all the rumours and talk and stuff like that. So you got the impression that it was tense and awkward. And anyway, Tom knows he's leaving. There's no commitment to investing in a relationship or friendship, is there? Because you're leaving. And maybe Janet may have got a sense of that, for example, and Sarah.
It was a huge period in Tom Baker's life personally. He was coming to the end of a long-term job, which he knew was coming to an end by the time Matthew came along.
His marriage broke up.
He had that huge relationship with Lala Ward. They ended up getting married, but then they sometimes would talk to each other, sometimes wouldn't even look at each other during filming. You can tell. So it was huge. It was massive. So I guess Matthew wouldn't have played much of a part in Tom's life at that stage, other than a mild irritant.
Yeah. Like I said, barking big dog and the puppy. Yeah, dead man here. So Adric was best when tied up in Castrovalva. Actually, I didn't mind that kind of little subplot of using Adric in that way. That kind of worked for me, and it gave him something to do. And he's in that strange Matrix thing, and he's suffering there. And I don't know. I thought that was not a bad moment for Adric, to be honest.
I think Brendan's saying he liked him in bondage.
Keeps coming back to that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
I always say Ncuti should be stilled, and maybe Matthew Waterhouse's Adric needs to be, because they're always running around. In the Visitation, poor Matthew Waterhouse was given the one bit of the script that every actor in Doctor Who must hate. You sprain your ankle. It's like, oh, for God's sake, how do you sprain your ankle on an invisible stone? It doesn't work, and Matthew had to try and trip over a weed, the usual stuff. That's bad scripting. It's just, demobbing.
But at the same time, they also wanted to demonstrate once again that he could heal quickly. There was another opportunity for that. So just a reminder that this is an alien from another, not just another planet, from another universe. So that was also at the front of Matthew's mind as well when he was playing the character. He wanted to, maintain that.
It's a shame because, in Earthshock, and I'm not going to talk about the final scene stuff, it was in the TARDIS. When he had a moan at the Doctor, and I used to hate these arguments like Janet, Tegan, where this is Heathrow. But I did like the moment when the Peter Davison Doctor kind of had a quieter word. They're both kind of reconnected, and he said, Just have you work it out and you do this, and then Adric's looking at the screen when they're just looking at dinosaur bones and that. And I just thought there was another way you could have worked Adric. There really was. You know, he is only a kid, and I think a lot of writers actually just didn't show much kind of guile in how they used him.
That's what I was going to say. I think the writers let him down. I thought they set him up nicely in Legopolis, and if I'm honest, and I haven't watched any of his episodes for a long time, he kind of made no impact on me whatsoever. But I did find his exit in Earthshock quite moving, and then the credits were in silence, and I thought that was quite lovely. But yeah, he just didn't make any impact on me at all, other than being a bit of a whiny kid. But it was totally the writing. It probably wasn't his fault at all.
Well, it is
because
the
Legopolis set it up beautifully.
Yeah, the writing, like Mr. Nintendo says here, Adric was terrible in most sins, but it's absolutely worse was siding with the villain in that story with different cultures. I think it was about turning. I mean, yeah, it's the story, isn't it? You know, if you're given this, you know, you've got a role in Doctor Who, Full Circle looks promising, State of Decay looks promising, and then suddenly, like sometimes the fate of lots of companions, you're either in a crammed TARDIS crew, or the writers don't know what to do with you, and they suddenly get bored with you. And it's like,
there's too many of them not doing anything.
Yeah. Fort of Doomsday is a good example because, even Matthew didn't like that story, so it was completely down to the script, that one.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It was too cluttered, the crew, wasn't it? I think it's hard for writers.
Very much, yeah.
You know, every time you've got to have Nissa, Flake out in Kinder, you've got to do all these various different things. And so in Castro Valve, it's good to have him locked up with the Master, you know. It works, just like Peladon does, Dan. It's on the same par.
Forge of Doomsday is pretty much on par with that for me.
But this is what's so funny. You know, Adric wasn't. I mean, I'm a similar age when I'm watching the program, but I wasn't relating in any shape or form. Certainly not with the maths.
He wasn't relatable at all.
He was my favourite character growing up, but as an adult, it's pretty obvious he's the weakest actor in the history of the show. Now, that's an opinion. He was also written as a whiny little whatever who would betray the Doctor the first opportunity he got. Again, that's the writing, isn't it?
It's the writers, not him. Yeah.
Yeah. For best, he wasn't entirely... Well, look at this. He wasn't entirely terrible in the first episode of Legopolis while playing against...
No, they set him up nicely.
Although, as Dwayne was saying, I think we'd say he wasn't... I think you need to big it up a little bit more. He wasn't... The worst is literally everything else. So obviously that's where somebody stands there. And that's kind of where people go with Adric, don't they? But to me, Adric was a missed opportunity. If you're trying to relate to the kids, you know, like Susan Foreman was supposed to be speaking to the kids in many shapes or forms. You know, we could relate to that. And then you've got the teachers. Adric was a kid.
That was again the writing, because he was an alien, so I guess they were trying to play with the fact that he was an alien, but they did miss a trick. He could have been the one that the audience relates to, and they missed their opportunity there.
Now, this is not me having a hit at Matthew Waterhouse, and I wouldn't do that either with Dwayne there, and I wouldn't do that. But I think my question...
Wait till I'm gone?
No,
if he wasn't there, he would.
But my question is this, that he... In Full Circle, he's written as a kind of artful dodger type. Now, Matthew Waterhouse's acting subset is probably there, and he sounds quite middle class and all the rest of it, and it depends how you can do it. You know, Chris Eccleston can do gritty. I think, and I'm not going to say he's miscast or anything. What I'm going to say is Matthew Waterhouse should have been given a different character in Doctor Who rather than the artful dodger, which I don't think kind of quite worked.
No.
That's
it's a little bit confused in that it's the artful dodger and a genius mathematician at the same time. So those two don't really go together. You're not going to
not at all
get some kind of streetwise kid knowing arithmetic, you know. And that's what they tried to do with this character. So it was flawed from the very beginning, and that was down to J&T.
Yes.
That was his brief. So
Sometimes J&T wrote on a postcard. It felt like to me, you know, some stupid name like Purple Gilliam Brown, and she's got to be American. And in the end, you're going, J&T, hold on, what are you trying to do here? So Paul Mabley here. My favourite Adric bit was the scene in which he walked across the control room like a Thunderbird's puppet. I remember we did a state of decay review, and gosh, the lads were piling into how he walked across the TARDIS, which I hadn't really picked up on, but I don't know if that's what Paul Mabley's talking about. So Darko, once it was pointed out that Waterhouse was scared of the keyboard when trying to crack the code before it explodes in Earthshock, I can't unsee it. Well, of course, I did do that interview with Simon Anthony, who was obviously, video editing and everything, and there was more than one take, and that was the problem. Because the director had felt that there wasn't enough groaning from the Cyberman in the background, they needed to do the take again, and Matthew Waterhouse had already had his fingers burned the first time with the shock of it, so then they had to do it again, and this time he's slightly more tentative. As you
and
would
again,
be.
not his fault. Not his fault. Yeah.
And it was probably 30 seconds to 10 p.m. As these things always seem to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, if you're hardly going to get your fingers taken off if you know that you've been fired too. Yeah, your loyalty to your employers hanging thin by that stage.
So this is what's interesting, and there may be stuff that's you can see. We've done a bit of a thread here and discussion, and you can see some on the thread are actually saying Matthew was just misused. On reflection, I think actually there was a good actor being muted by scripts. I have to say, was it ever thus in Doctor Who? How many times have we just missed an opportunity? Morgan, I thought Davis and Adric were in competition, almost adversarial. I think you were kind of hinting at that, Drain, regarding the age thing. That was all. It was better with Tom.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, and you definitely get that at the start of Earthshock. But those scenes at the beginning were building up. Actually, they were resolved in episode 1 of Earthshock because they were having all those arguments, and then by the end of it, Adric's talking about calculations, and then saying, I didn't really want to go back to East Base, I just wanted to prove I could do it, and that sort of eases the tension between them for the rest of the story then. So, that's...
Dwayne, you wine and dine these people, and part of the schmoozing process is you're looking after them and all the rest of it. But it must be on the tip of a lot of fans' tongues to ask Matthew in this case, or Janet Fielding, or whoever else, because everybody refers to, and it's unfortunate for Matthew Waterhouse, if he walks in a room of Doctor Who fans, everybody says he was told off, or he got up himself and he advised somebody, and some of it will be unfair and wrong. And has he ever addressed it?
So what exactly are you...
there's all these rumours that seem to kind of undermine Matthew Waterhouse, that he was giving acting tips to somebody.
You mean the Richard Todd thing?
Yeah. Because it seems to be... Every Doctor Who fan seems to have read about this stuff, whether it's true or not. And so, therefore, if I was Matthew Waterhouse, when I walk in a Doctor Who convention room, it's on the tips of the tongues of everybody there. Does anybody ever mention this sort of stuff? I know nobody wants to be rude, but... Does anyone ever say, what's the real story?
Well, it hasn't come up so far, but if Dan's there on Sunday, he might ask a question. I'm sure he would, actually.
Is he quite an honest guy, Matthew? I mean, because when I say that, I don't think anyone should ask a rude question. I don't like that sort of thing. But what I'm saying is,
you shouldn't ask a question as if you're baiting him. But
no.
He's pretty honest, although I can't say I've asked questions about that. I've heard the Richard Todd thing before, but I didn't even think about it until then. I haven't thought about it for ages. But I think for actors, well, we're talking about Matthew now. So for Matthew, that was a couple of years of his life, and his life is a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
So, quite frankly, I think he's got other things to think about. So it doesn't really worry him too much. So I'm sure if the questions were asked, he'd be able to answer them.
It's just my concern about all the actors in, say, Doctor Who is some of them, everybody will clap as, Katie Manning walks in the room, everybody's full of love and they know she's going to be fun and all the rest of it. my guess is with Matthew Waterhouse is that Doctor Who fans, we know all the details on gossip and bits and bobs, and some of it won't be true. So yes, I agree, he's done more in his life, but you know what Doctor Who fans are like. And
the thing is with Matthew in particular, I had someone come up to me at Melbourne and say, I've enjoyed Matthew more than any other guest that you've had. He was this person's favourite guest that he'd seen that we brought out. And the thing with a lot of guests, they have a list of anecdotes, and you know that they're tapping into the file, pulling out that anecdote and relating that story. The thing with that I've noticed with Matthew is that he'll take every question and he will consider the answer on the spot. It's not an anecdote. It's something that he thinks about right then and there on the spot, and it's fresh and new. It's not something that someone in Chicago will have heard 6 months ago, you know.
I respect that.
I think everyone picks up on that, and everyone really appreciates that.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. That's good to know, and that's why it's interesting to talk about this. Jeremy Musical here, he admitted to that with a very self-deprecating humour. I was impressed by his candour. So that's good to know. Simon Anthony's responding to when we mentioned Earthshock and the Dwayne was just speculating. I wonder if there were, 30 seconds till 10 o'clock and that. Simon Anthony, it was shot at about lunchtime, by the way. However, they are trying to compress so many scenes, aren't they? It may not be 10 p.m.
Every time anyone talks about pressure or anything like that, it's usually, because we were 10 to 10. So, or 5 to 10, and we had to get it done for the lights go out. That's what everyone seems to say. That's the only reason I said that. But whether it's 10 minutes to 10 o'clock, if you've got so much to pack in a day's filming, it's still only one take or two, isn't it? It's rushed. Jeremy Musical, as an adult, I found Matthew charming, and the fact he admitted to teenage flaws, I think, shows a humility, and I appreciate that. Well, yeah, definitely. If anybody has that about them, too right. He sounds good value. Now you've got another event tomorrow. Can people just still pay to go? Of course they can. Yeah, they can just rock up.
So just give us your details then. What if I was around Adelaide tomorrow? Then what do I do?
So because we're catching a flight to Sydney tomorrow night, the event's starting early, so it'll be starting at 10 a.m. and it will go till about 4 in the afternoon, and there'll be interviews, Q&As, the signings, photos, and a chance to get together with other fans too. So that's always a good thing. So just come to the Mantra at Tonsley. Sorry, I think someone pronounced it Tunsley tonight. So
no, it's Tonsley.
It's Tonsley, is it?
It's definitely Tonsley. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
wrong.
where it is. If you're catching a bus, I've discovered don't trust any of the times, because every bus in Adelaide is late. I think if a bus in Adelaide is on time, they're doing something wrong. I think they must get reprimanded back at base if they're on time.
Apparently, they're not allowed to run early, but that's it. Anything else is fair game.
Right. Yeah, so that's happening tomorrow. But on Sunday, we're going to be doing it all over again in Sydney. So,
well, Sam and Anthony's putting a request here. He's obviously in Britain. He was the video editor on this. Dwayne, ask Matthew about shooting the death scene. I'd love to hear his side of the story. Have you already discussed
anything in particular about the death scene that you want me to ask, or?
I think it's the actual bit, because that's the bit he talked on my stream, because he was editing it all together. But yeah, Simon, get back to us in a second before we finish the stream. What to ask? Well, Dan, Dwayne, busy days. Doug, you've just raced back. You've met each other in separate places. I'm stuck here.
I didn't even get a photo with you, Doug, so we can't prove it. I meant to take a photo and send it to the boys, but
just take my word that we met, and you didn't catch her, but I said you're much better looking in person. So
thank you.
Well, I'm now odd one out of the detoxers, but I hope to be in Australia this year, and that gives me a good reason to see you all in person. You'll regret it.
Yeah.
But
of course we will.
It is time I saw Australia again, and it would be great to catch up with you all. But lads, I appreciate you being on again, because I know you've all been in different ways knackered. So thank
absolutely
you for
knackered.
yeah. So thanks for giving me your time. I've enjoyed our little chat, and as always with the detoxers, I know I sound like Zebedee telling you all to go to bed, but basically it's the end of your day. I appreciate that. So thank you, Dwayne, and good luck tomorrow. And then is it a few quieter days?
After Sunday, yes. We do have a bigger net. We've already got the next 2 planned, so they'll be. We've already announced it in Melbourne, but we're going to announce them again to the audience in Adelaide and Sydney. So big news.
Right. There you go.
And so you're at Power on Sunday.
Sunday.
All day,
Sunday,
all day
11 o'clock.
Sunday. Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dan. I know some weeks are harder than others, aren't they? So he won't be watching Paladin tonight. It's just too much for him.
Yeah, we were just saying, Dwayne, at the beginning of the show that there's a lot of consensus now forming after my heresy that Paladin's boring.
Another stream says they like Paladin, they don't like Paladin, and suddenly that
It wasn't just a person on another stream; it was like the whole stream.
Oh, they were probably tired. They were trying to be polite. I never get that on this show. Doug, thank you. I know you've rushed back and everything, so I think it's time I did the Zebedee bit and said it's time for the detoxers to, go to bed. I can't say that, but you know what I mean. Anyway, good night, everyone, and thanks for your time. And thanks to the thread. I'll be around at the walk show tonight, but good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Love you.